Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to our last but not least day of this Borderless JS AI Edition conference. So, it's been a very busy week, right? We had a tremendous number of talks, even like panel discussion, and now our last talk, right? The secret prompts of popular code editors. So, it is my honor to welcome on stage our last speaker, Mikhail, who's actually like supreme developer, YouTuber, blogger, Amsterdammer. Well, just a great guy. So, Mikhail, do you mind to share with us all the secret prompts of popular code editors that you know so far?
Hello everyone, thanks for inviting me, Pavel. And yeah, I'm gonna share some insights on the most popular editors and what lessons we can learn from them, because that's pretty
Right.
interesting topic. And yeah, I hope people will enjoy it, and I hope they will have questions. And if they will, I will answer them. So let me introduce the presentation first, so we can go through it. And yeah, should be visible. The name of the presentation you've heard already. It's a secret prompts of the popular code editors. Maybe for people who are watching me on YouTube, you saw it already more or less in the video I made in Russian language, but today we're gonna speak a bit different about this topic, and also it's gonna be in English, which for some people can be a benefit. Let's take a look at the plan we're gonna have today. There will be a short introduction where I will introduce myself. Then we're gonna talk about the text itself, and you will understand what it means. Then we're gonna look at what's inside, some conclusion, and of course questions from you if you will have them, and I hope you will. Let's start from the introduction. So my name is Mikhail Larchenko. I'm a principal software engineer in the company Cytec in Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And I'm a developer for few decades already, and I started in 1999, which is quite far back from now. And currently, like, I'm not really a developer. I'm doing a lot of things around it and doing some engineering management jobs, but I still have a lot of hands-on on the code, and I program a lot, and especially with the modern tools like AI editors, for example. And today we're gonna look at three instruments or three tools people use today a lot. One is called Cursor AI. You probably heard about this editor. Second one is WindSurf. And if you don't know what is WindSurf, probably you heard about Codeum in the past. That's literally the same. They just renamed. And we're going to mention also Lovable. It's a Dutch startup from Amsterdam, which promises you that anybody, including you, if you cannot program, still will be able to create a great application. And why we are talking about them today? Because first of all, these are the tools which are gaining a huge popularity nowadays, because it allows you to do this so-called vibe coding. I don't know how you feel about vibe coding, but anyway, even if you don't like it, sometimes you want to build something in the evening and you don't have a lot of time because it's almost time to go to the bed. So vibe coding and tools like WindSurf or Cursor or Lovable, for example, they allow you to do something quickly, some POC or maybe draft test it, how it works. And then if you like it and you want to continue, you can do it more properly just using your own skills. And also, these tools are generating enormous amount of money nowadays, and that's a bit weird. Yeah, let's look at this number, because this is $3 billion, American dollars, and this is the price which OpenAI paid for WindSurf. Let me go back. Yeah, this in the middle, WindSurf ex Codeum. So OpenAI purchased or acquired this company to have not only the editor itself, because editor is great and you can compete with a Cursor, but also WindSurf had its own and still has probably its own models, which is really great. And these models are made specially for programming, so OpenAI can improve their own models just using what WindSurf provides. So $3 billion. And you know what was paid for $3 billion? Yeah, at least we have models. But still, it just VS Code fork with prompts. So, and you can apply it both to WindSurf. So it's just a VS Code fork, the editor we all love and we all use. And on top of this, they just introduced a couple of plugins and a couple of additional functionalities. The same for Cursor. Cursor is not editor written from the scratch. Again, it's just a VS Code fork where they've added, like, changed the design slightly and added additional tools and instruments which you can use to communicate with AI. And AI is kind of building, but not really. And if these are just VS forks with prompts, so what did OpenAI purchase in case of WindSurf, for example? Yeah, I mentioned models they had, but models for OpenAI is not the most important thing, because they can like teach their own models. They can create a lot of them. They have money, they have people, they have resources to do it. But they also bought like VS Code fork with a user base, because a lot of people were already using WindSurf, and if you want to compete on the market, you just go and buy somebody, or you build by yourself, spending a lot of time on it, or you just acquire somebody or something, and you already competing with us. So they purchased VS Code fork, and the most important part and most interesting for us in there, and probably for OpenAI and for many other developers, are the prompts within like WindSurf or Lovable and Cursor. And these prompts are interested to us for us, not because they are nice, cool, and we just want to look at them. No, because based on these prompts, we can learn and teach ourselves on how properly use AI tools nowadays, how to create queries to them, how to set up them, and how to adjust them. So that's why I would like to like to go with you, along with you, through this journey, looking at best practices used within these editors. And in the end of this presentation, you will have, I will show you a link where you can go and check all these prompts and where these prompts came from. One guy on YouTube says these are the real prompts he somehow get from these different editors. He has much more in there, like Debian, you remember this front-end AI, which had to replace all front-end developers. So he has Debian AI in there, Cursor, WindSurf, Lovable, some other tools. So, and you can go to this link and check all of them if you are interested in. Of course, some companies said these are not the real prompts, or these were the prompts from the past and they already changed them, but some companies didn't say anything. And we don't really care if it's an old prompt or a new one. We will not look in the separate words or sentences in this prompt, but we're going to look at the structure and how to provide the best prompt to the AI to make it work properly. And if we're talking about the prompts and tools we are looking today, we are going to look today. So I posted these 3 screenshots here, and this is the last, let's say, last lines of the prompt. And you can see that, for example, for Cursor prompt is quite small, it's 83 lines. For WindSurf, it's a bit bigger, it's 121. And for Lovable, it's quite huge one, it's like 1560 lines of text. And we are talking just about lines because the length of each line can be different. And for example, for Cursor and WindSurf, it's quite a lengthy lines. And as you can understand, this is a lot of text. This is a lot of information provided to AI before it even starts to do something. And that's quite important, because these lines are there not just because developers or whoever wrote these prompts wanted to put as much text as they can. No, all this text is really used in there. And now we're gonna go from part to part through this text and see how they use prompts, how they build prompts, because this is a whole new profession nowadays, prompt engineer. And knowing how to build prompt, it makes you a better developer, a better user, and it allows you to better understand overall how AI works, if we can say that it works. And let's start from the role. I will post screenshots. I will not mention where it's coming from, but you probably can read it from the screenshots I will post, like here. And if we're talking about role, a role is a quite important thing when you do a prompt. And all 3 editors, code editors with AI we are discussing today, they all set the role for the AI. Despite AI can, or model can understand what the prompt is about just based on its context, it's always great to specify this information, so LLM immediately knows what it's going to do. And if we look at the top one, it's a Lovable one. It says it's written, "You're Lovable," an AI editor that creates and modifies web applications. Based on this, we can already understand that Lovable is just created for building web applications, and that's what it specifies on the very top. If we will look at the second one, which is from Cursor, it says a bit more. First of all, it says it's an AI coding assistant. Then, for some reason, I still did not understand it, it says which LLM it does use. I can imagine that LLMs are different and they calculate results differently or predict results differently. But I doubt if you will say cloud as that it's cloud, it somehow will change their behavior or its behavior. But anyway, they provide this information. You operate in Cursor, And then like it continues to say what's the main responsibility of the model based on its role. So you are a pair programmer with a user to solve, etc. But anyway, we see we need to specify a role. And then let's take a look at the Cadeum, which is WindSurf. And you can see your cascaded powerful agentic AI coding assistant designed by Cadeum engineering team, a world-class AI company, blah, 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 blah. They also do it a bit differently. They give more information about the company who created the tool. And you may ask, why the hell they provide this information? How is this usable by LLM during the code generation? And the funny thing that this information can be used by LLM if user somehow will ask AI, who are you, what are you doing, where you have been built. So this information about company who created it, or country where it was created, or engineering team where it was created. It also allows LLM to prevent unnecessary answers. For example, if editor is using some external open API LLM, for example, not internal one, then if you will not provide information about company or team who created it, if user will ask, who are you, for example, then LLM can just answer that I'm like LLM created by OpenAI and blah, blah, blah. And if you see, you use Lovable and you see underneath that it uses OpenAI LLM, it sounds a bit weird. Let's be honest. You want to see that it's Lovable and LLM is also for Lovable. So that's why in the role, you need to provide more context about who built it. So AI, when user asks, it will answer that it's not some kind of API or external company. It will answer that, yeah, I'm literally this editor created for this editor. And just one more time, role is quite important. It immediately specifies for the model what it's going to do. So if you want to use it for your iOS application, for example, and you are building it with Swift, you can easily write, you are experienced iOS developer with deep knowledge of Swift programming language created by Apple, and you mean to build applications for iOS using best practices, etc. It's really, really important. The request itself, it's even more important and more interesting to look through all these editors and secret prompts. And here you can see one of the screenshots from one of these editors. Again, I will not tell which one exactly, but probably if you will go through the text, you will find what it is. And request, that's literally the description of what LLM should do. Not the role, not additional information, but exactly what it should build. And it should be as more detailed as possible. If you will look at this screenshot, you see it's not a lot of text in it, despite lines are quite long, but it's very, very detailed, and it's just a part of the actual request. Based on the amount of lines, you probably can already say it's lovable. And they give so much information, how to break multi-part queries, how to write code, how to use tools, how not to use tools, and all this stuff. And also you can see here they use a special, can I draw on it somehow? No, looks like I cannot. But if you will look, you can see kind of HTML tags in it: communication, tool calling, maximize context, understanding, etc. And this is what a lot of developers are not using when they create a prompt. And I, for example, use it a lot when I create a role for LLM and I specify roles. For example, I always wrap it in a system tag. Why do I do this? Because LLM uses this text, most of LLMs, they use these tags, if I would call it like this, to separate different parts of the prompt. If you ever built your own chat using some of LLMs, you probably saw how the chat, like how the prompt for chat messages look. It has system tag with some system prompt in it. Then it has user tag with some user requests, and assistant tag with some assistant response. If chat is quite long, another user tag with like additional user information, etc. So tags allow LLMs to divide prompt on different parts to better understand its structure and the order of messages in it. And here we can see guys from Lovable also use them. And yeah, you can find on the internet that like it's not required, it's not necessary to do, but I would say responses are much better when you do it for all the LLMs I've tested. It's like OpenAI, Llama, Gemini, DeepSeek, Qwen. So I tried all of them. use most of them, and yeah, you definitely need to use text within. But if we go further, just about the details, you can see you should provide also, if you are generating code, the whole detailed structure of the code you want to receive. Did you ever try to use Cursor AI to build some simple application? I just built one a couple of days ago using Lua, and I just provided information about the application I want to receive. Cursor created all Lua files, put some code in it, but these all files, it was like 6 or 7 files, they've been all in a root directory. They was not separated based on the event they use, or based on the domain they use, or maybe based on the service they provide, and it was a bit of a mess. My next request immediately for Cursor was just like put it in a folders using this or that architecture pattern. And that's what you need to provide in the very, very beginning. And as we can see in this also lovable screenshot, they provide this information. They specify that TypeScript should be used for safety. They say that components should be small and focused, less than 50 lines. So as much information as possible for the LLM to create their code for you in the same way as you will do it. So just when you create a prompt, just and or users here or developers here they've been creating a prompt, they just thought about how they usually develop, which patterns, which methodologies they do use, and they just described it in a prompt. And again, in the lower part of the screenshot, you can see we again see some kind of tags like low write, low rename, low delete, and these tags are used to divide the prompt for LLM to specify some moments in this prompt which should have more attention. And if you are asking what is low write, low rename, I can imagine low is from Lovable, and write, rename, deleted, dependency, and code is just the commands which should be used by Lovable. And now let's take a look to another detailed request, and this one is coming from, again, Lovable. I used Lovable a lot here because they have the tallest file with biggest amount of lines, because making screenshots from Cursor or from WindSurf where they have just long lines, even if you wrap them in the paragraphs to fit in the screen, it's really hard to understand what's going on there. In Lovable, they have separate lines for everything, so we can look at this and understand better. And this screenshot I provided for you because you can see here, if you look with attention, there are a lot of capitalized text, like important, this is critical. And on the previous screenshots, we had some words capitalized too, like never, user, you can hear here, always. The thing is that LLMs are really sensitive to a capitalized text. You probably know it's like yelling, yeah? When you chat with somebody and you just use text, if you want to show that you like insisting or something, or wanna put some accent on the word, you just type it in a capital with the capital letters. So LLM also sensitive, as I said, to the capital letters. If you write something with the capitals only, LLM will think that it's quite important information. So that's why we can see in this example, this is critical, and LLM will like, okay, this is critical in capital letters, so probably this is critical. The same for always. Always means always only if it's capitalized. So detailed report, it's not only about a lot of details like schemas, file names, file structure, etc., but it's also about information which LLM should put a lot attention to. And if you want a LLM never do something, you put never capitalized. If you want a LLM to do something always, you put always capitalized. And just again, on this screenshot, you can see there's a lot capitalized words, and they are really, really used by LLM. Quick recap about the details. So you have a role, but then when you write a detailed request, it should be really detailed. So you should provide as much information as you know, as much edge cases, which you can imagine. You can put a lot of context, even if this context not really related to the code writing, and you just thinking how user gonna use your application, put this information also in the request, so LLM also knows how you see user uses your application. It will reflect on it and will build your application in a way that user with the behavior you want will use it much better. And now let's take a look at the tools. It's another really important thing in today's AI world. If in the very beginning of AI, we only had chat and we've been able to send text and receive text, with evolution of the LLMs, they got ability to use external tools to communicate with internet, maybe to do some things on your computer if you use agent. And these tools should be also provided in the request. And there are a few ways how to provide these tools. It can be a separate file which you just include, and this file can have a JSON structure with all the tools and descriptions, or it can be something like this within your prompt. You can see here we again have tags. So we have opened and closed like wrapping tag called functions, and then within this tag we have function as a separate item for each single tool our AI can use. And in this function, we usually provide description of the function, also really detailed. You can see here, it only fitted the description. But anyway, it provides description because AI, based on the name of the tool, can barely predict how properly use it. So this description gives additional information about the tool and situations when this tool should be used. For example, we have the first one on the screenshot, 5 snippets of code from the code base most relevant to the search query. This is semantic search tool, blah, blah, blah. So many information about each tool. Again, it's the same as detailed report. You just need to provide as much context as possible. So LLM did not think and did not hallucinate on, oh, I have a function, whatever, search. Probably it can search files, or maybe it can search internet, or maybe it can search within this text. So that's really weird. And probably if we provide tool called search, it only searches on the internet. So if we're going to prevent LLM to misuse your tool, our tool, we provide as much information about this tool as possible. And if we have many tools, we provide much more information for each of the tools. And it's not only description. You need to provide which arguments to call, function name, of course. And of course, you should provide type of the response or example of the response from this function. So as soon as the response returned back to the LLM, it already knows how to proceed it. The same we can find, for example, in other editors. This one, if I'm correct, the previous one was from Cursor, and this one is from WindSurf. And you can see here, it also has both and the tags and the schema and the description of every tool. That's quite usable. That's important. And another thing you should always specify if you are building code with LLM, it's the example of the code you want to receive. This is one of the screenshots. You can see that when you write your prompt and you ask to generate some kind of code for you, if you will not provide code examples or file names, then it will be random files in random folders or in a root folder with some code, and each file can have a different style of a code. You don't want it to be like this. If you have one application in one language with one framework, you would like to have all the files in the same styling with the same patterns, etc. That's why you have to provide examples of the code you want to receive from LLM. And not far away from today, maybe a couple of weeks ago, me and a couple of guys were working on the prompt to generate nice presentation descriptions. And this is a prompt also with a few thousand lines of code. That's what we've come up in the end. And this code has also examples of the slides or descriptions of the examples of the slides we want to receive, just because LLM otherwise will generate like 20 slides and few of them will be looking differently or will be described differently from the others. So examples we've provided allowed us to have every slide description be in the same style and with the continuity, because a previous slide should somehow reflect on the information. Next slide should somehow reflect on the information from the previous slide. And proper detailed request we've created with an examples helped us to achieve this. So when we're talking about code, and we can see it, for example, from this example from Lovable again, which uses React as a main framework to build everything, they provide examples of the React components. So LLM knows how to write code. And it's not only about code style you want to use. It's also about file names, functions, etc. You can provide example of everything, or data object, for example. So then you describe, look at this screenshot. You can see we have a type grep search, and it has description of the an example of the interface, TypeScript interface for one of the functions. And it means that LLM will generate other TypeScript interfaces and types based on this example, which is great. So we will have the same styling of the interfaces as we provided in the example. And another example here, you can see it's like example of how to write file of special type. For example, we can say here it's front-end config file, also from Lovable, of course, because they have the biggest prompt for all three of the tools we discussed today. And you can see it provides an example of the file structure, JSON file structure, which should be used by LLM when it will generate files like this. Again, more examples, more context, better result. And yeah, I had not a lot of time to go through all of this. So you can go, if you speak Russian, you can go to my channel and find the video where I can speak in more details about this prompts. But if you would like by yourself to look at this, this is a URL. I know it's quite hard to copy all this stuff from the screen. So what I suggest you to do, just remember the name of the account who has this repo. It's like x1xhlol. Pretty simple to type all these 7 symbols right now, characters somewhere in text file, and then open this guy on GitHub. And he has a repo called System Prompts and Models of AI Tools. It has much more. As I said, it has Devin AI. What else? Like a lot of different tools, CDN, DN, whatever. Cursor, WindSurf, Lovable, etc. And you can see how different developers build their tools, which uses AI and which prompts they feed to this AI, to these LLMs. And you can find some valuable information for yourself. Because one more time, usage of AI is really important today for developers, not because it's going to replace developers, just because it speeds up development itself. And a lot of employees today are looking at the developers and asking developers when they hire, do you use AI? How do you use AI, etc. So if you know how to use it, you can easily answer these questions. And a short conclusion, I will give you an example here because I had a conversation with a hiring developer or developer who is responsible for hiring from booking.com. And they are asking developers during the hiring if they use LLM and how. That's what I mentioned like a few seconds ago. And then I asked him, why do you ask? Do you want like to code everything with AI? Do you want to replace these developers in the future? Why do you need them to use it? And he just said that they're now looking at the AI as a speed up tool for development. Again, because writing of the code, literally clicking or pressing these buttons on the computer is probably one of the longest and boring part of the software development. So they would like LLMs and AI overall just be used as a typewriter, like this monkey developer who just types everything on the computer. And the developers, the real developers, people, they've been just thinking on the architecture, on the patterns, on the best practices. They're not thinking about, okay, I need to spend another hour just pressing these stupid buttons on the keyboard. And they look now in the booking how properly use it, how to align it with the current processes. And it's really important for them that the developers they hire knew how to use LLMs. Not only knew, oh yeah, there is WindSurf, you can ask it to write you something, or there is ChatGPT, you can type your request and get a code snippet from it, or file with a code from it. No, you should know how to run them, how to prompt them properly. That's what we've discussed today on the examples of these editors. And prompting is a really complex thing because setting up the LLM nowadays is pretty simple with the tools everybody provides. Like you run a llama, select the model, and it works. But properly using of LLMs, it's quite a problem. And these Booking.com guys ask developers how they use LLMs just to understand if they use them properly. And this is it for my presentation. I hope you have some questions. And if you have, it's time to ask them, and I will try to answer all of them. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mikhail. Thank you for all these secret prompts of popular code editors that you shared with us. And actually, we do have a number of questions if you'd like. So one of them is kind of like crucial. Will you share the presentation to the audience later on? Maybe you can drop a link to the comments chat at YouTube later on. Will it be possible?
Yeah, it will be possible. I have it in the keynote right now. I can make PDF, upload it something and share, and probably I will share it with you, and you can probably spread it in the community. Yep.
Okay, done. And those guys who are watching us right now, the YouTube, or maybe will rewatch us later on, check the comments as well, because most likely Mikhail will drop some comments. And again, since we're talking about YouTube, follow Mikhail as well as us, right? Like his content, because actually Mikhail is dropping a lot of good stuff, right? About AI and all about development in general. And actually, according to the YouTube new features, right, you can select the language that you want to consume this content, right? So if you speak English, or if you speak another language, just click the setting and you will be able to hear the content in the desired language. Right. We do have another question. Well, not a question, rather than statement, right? From Margarita, who says that sometimes it feels like it is faster to build the app rather than the right prompt like this. What do you think?
I'm totally agree, and I'll just give example. It's not related to the
Mhm.
programming app, but it's again about this presentation prompt we've been creating with the guys. So we
Mhm.
had an idea to start a like bootcamp or whatever. People who follow me on YouTube, they probably know about it already. But the thing is, we've been late a bit just because we spent a month on building this prompt for to generate presentation
Mhm.
descriptions for designer, and it like yeah, it made everything super slow. But the problem is you cannot write proper prompt for such a big task in a day or in a two. You need to test it. So you write a huge prompt, you test it, it's bad, you rewrite it. So it took a month to do it. And probably in this month, we've been able to create a lot of presentations just manually. Yeah, of course, as soon as we have a prompt, it's pretty quick. You just feed with the text of the presentation of the text of the topic, you feed this prompt to generate description, and it generates you the whole description of the presentation.
Mhm.
But yeah, now it's quick, but in the end, it slowed us for a month, and we decided to stop bootcamp because it's pretty expensive to prepare it.
Yeah.
And if we already paid salary to a lot of people while they've been doing nothing, and we will be creating a prompt, it looks a bit stupid. So yeah, we decided to stop it because it's pretty expensive, because AI slows us down. So sometimes it's quicker to write something by yourself instead of creating a huge prompt. And yeah, you saw this lovable prompt with 1500 lines of code, lines
Mhm.
of text. You can imagine how long they've been writing it. It's not like you in one go wrote 1500s of lines. No, you did it months, 2 months, 3 months to make this critical, really important prompt, which is your business. So
Mhm.
prompt for WindSurf, if you want to sell it for 3 billion, it's not like you can do in a minute. You will really spend a lot of time, a lot of months probably to build this prompt. And maybe you can do your application much quicker if you want.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe some sort of like a Captain Obvious advice for all our vibe coders who are watching us right now. Always recheck, right, the response from the tool, because no matter how hard you try and modify your prompt, always check the response, because considering your experience, your skills, it might be like even faster, like to do it yourself, right? Rather than then, okay, fix it, fix it, fix it. Okay, it's just a simple fix, and you know how to fix it, right?
Yeah, and I have example about this too. We had a really nice hackathon in my company where we built a backend for poker
Mm-hmm.
and a table, like spectator table. And in a hackathon, every team was building AI bot to play poker. And when we've been building a backend, we decided to use vibe coding for this because we don't want to spend a lot of time on the building tool, which nobody pays for. So we used the vibe code. And then we had an error because if, for example, some error happened on the bot side, it's not sending a proper command. So the whole game stuck on one player, which is not moving forward. So we asked Cursor in this case to do the script or to do the logic which folds cards of this player if he's not responding for 30 minutes or 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't working just because it wrongly selected the place where to create a timer for user and execute like fold action when time's out. So, and yeah, it was like 2 or 3 tries from us. So it implemented it somehow. It wasn't working properly. We again asked to re-implement it, and again. And in the end, I just went manually to the file, found this code, copied it, put it in the proper place, just like cut, paste, and it immediately started to work. Sometimes it's much better for small changes to do it by yourself. But in this case, you should be not a vibe coder who doesn't know code and he is just like, hey, everybody can be a coder nowadays. You should understand the language. You should understand the framework and the patterns used by AI to build this application. Then you can quickly fix it by yourself.
Right, right. And by the way, like going back to your previous statement when you said that it's kind of difficult to say a very unique prompt for 3 billion, Narek in the comments mentioned that now we're talking about PaaS model, prompt as a service, right?
Yeah.
So maybe like this is the harsh
Yeah.
reality, right?
That's quite funny because it's another thing I read. I don't know. I think on Reddit on some kind of article that we had these prompt engineers as kind of profession or skill, which prompt engineering, which developers should have. But nowadays it a bit changes because now prompt engineering is a thing which does by LLM, which is done by LLM itself. So if you build a whole pipeline which uses AI for some actions, then for the prompt for this AI, you build in another AI in front which generates the prompt. So you don't need to be a prompt skilled guy to make it. You just add LLM for prompts, and there are already LLM just for prompts, small ones, which you can feed with a context, and it will create a nice prompt for you.
Yeah. And by the way, like speaking of these prompt engineers titles, right? If you'd like at YouTube or in LinkedIn profiles, right? I guess like prompt engineer, it's so outdated, right? It's so 2024. So now I guess the recent trend is to call yourself like agent orchestrator or something like that. Right?
But you know what I like in your phrase? You said so outdated, it's so 2024. And it's a funny thing because you remember in the past, especially if you've been a front-end developer, you have this something new every month, every few months, every half a year. And it was like, it's already like this framework is outdated. It's from the last year, like previous year. And it was funny. Of course, a lot of people were laughing on this, especially from backend languages. But then we lost it. Yeah, it stopped to develop so quick. We've got our React, we've got our Angular, like Vue developed for something, but it all stopped, and programming stopped to be so fun, I would say. But now with all these LLMs, we again have situation when something which was introduced few months ago is already outdated. So and it was on the front end. Now we have it in AI world.
It's like killer of the killer, right? This race when we had like killer of React, then we had Vue, then killer of Vue, or like Webpack, then we have Vite, killer of Vue, then we have what we have where we had Node, which was supposed to kill PHP, then we had Deno, right? Which supposed to kill Node and other things, right? Yeah, so like killers.
And I like it. Let's be honest, like it because development, when it's not evolving so quick, software development becomes really boring and non-interesting. You just type in the same commands, but in a different order in a different projects, and you don't really introduce something new or learn something new for yourself. But when everything changes so quick, it's always time to evolve yourself, which is great in my opinion.
Right. Also, another question, right? So you've mentioned a lot of tools, right? But you didn't mention for some reason GitHub Copilot tool, like at all. Why so? Because it's not on the hype train? Because Microsoft is not paying you for promotion? Why so?
There is a difference between Copilot and tools like WindSurf editor and Cursor AI. Copilot, it's a tool which you use within the application you've created, and like the difference is Cursor will create, you give it an empty folder and a prompt, and it creates everything for you, like from the scratch: files, folders, commands, databases, run these commands, install Docker, like run Docker file. So it does everything. Cursor, and I think it didn't change in the last days, Cursor only provides you ability to ask, to send request, like you have a file, empty file, but you need to create a file for Copilot. And then you can ask Copilot, fill this file with this code, whatever, make this code like this. And then you create another file and then another blah, blah, blah. With a Cursor, you don't need anything. The same with WindSurf editor. So you have an empty folder, you say, build me whole application from the scratch, and you just forget about it. In like 10 minutes, you have application. With Copilot, essentially, it doesn't work like this. That's why I didn't mention it here. But Copilot or WindSurf as a plugin for VS Code, or Codium, I think, or like Tab9, they're all great tools, but they are just different, not for the context of this presentation, of course. But overall, they are great. I love them all, and you just can select whatever you like. In our office, we use Copilot because we have Microsoft official stuff for everything. So I
Okay.
like them, and yeah, nobody pays me to promote them. If they will, I would be happy probably. But yeah,
Okay.
just because it's not for the sake of this presentation.
Okay. Okay. Let me object a bit here. Well, again, you're so outdated, Mikhail. You're so like April 2025. So it seems that we have the agents as well in the GitHub Copilot, right? And we have all
Yeah.
the like fancy stuff as well, and MCP we can run as well. So do you think that maybe like in the next iteration you will explore the capabilities of GitHub Copilot and maybe just add them as well?
Yeah, probably. I'm not sure if we're gonna continue with the presentation, with this presentation further, because yeah, everything changes. Prompts already changed, and they should be stolen again and
Mhm.
and uploaded to the repo, so I can look at them and like, yeah, this is a new prompt for new editor, and maybe Copilot Studio or whatever it's called will appear in there. But overall, I'm trying to look on all these new practices. GitHub Copilot mean new coding agent. Yeah, I will take a look at this.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it's the same, let's be honest. It's probably within the code space in GitHub only works properly, which I don't like. Nobody likes editor in the browser. So, but anyway, I need to look at this. I didn't, probably they have it already. But again, I have a lot of issues with Microsoft, not because I don't love them, because they just reuse OpenAI tool. And if WindSurf is already OpenAI property and it has a separate model for coding, one of the best models for coding, specified ones, why should we use Copilot, which is OpenAI, if OpenAI already provides WindSurf editor, which they just acquired? So yeah, and I'm
Okay.
not sure if
Okay.
Microsoft is doing great. It's a great infrastructure company. They are like, even if whole AI bubble just collapses, Microsoft loses nothing. They just reuse their infrastructure for games, for rendering, whatever they want. So it's a business for them, but not the most important. And Copilot, meh,
Okay.
I know
Okay.
why.
Okay. I see. Then let's say like question to the audience, right? As we speak, guys, what actually do you prefer, like Cursor, any other tools, or you still working with the GitHub Copilot? Just drop your comments in the comment section whenever you are watching us at YouTube, Where community, or whatever. Right. We have another one, if you don't mind, right? So
Yeah.
it's going to be the long one and the detailed one. So a question from Evgeny. So where would you recommend putting project or repo specific instructions like cursor rules, right? Have you compared different options like cursor rules, MD files with text, MD files with links, and MCP, or just pasting the key points into the each chat and remind the agent? What do you think?
That's interesting because I tried different things. If I have a lot of context to provide, usually I create a separate folder within my project, which is called AI, like literally, because there is no other folders with AI name. And I just put MD files one or many, which I want to use as a context, because I don't want to write it in the chat as a prompt. And again, it can be lost or chat can be cleaned with some button and then you lose it forever. So I have a folder with MD files in it, like each MD file has a lot of information which is needed for the prompt. And then because I use mostly Cursor for vibe coding, so then I just drag and drop this folder to the chat. It becomes attached as a context folder. And then you just need to provide a short prompt saying like, reuse information from these files to build this and that and that and that. And then it just read this context of these files and like uses as a part of the prompt. That's what I really like, and it allows me to change these files so I can reuse it again in the same editor for the same project, just changing something, saying like,
Right.
forget everything we've been discussing before, like use this file again to generate blah, 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 and these files are new, and the result is a bit different already. So
Okay.
this is an
Okay.
option I would like to do. And
All right.
MCPs is great by MCP for Cursor when you are building an application. You don't want to run the whole RAG or MCP for these files if you can just drag and drop them in context.
Right. Right. Yeah. Fair approach. Good. We have another one. Question, comment, whatever you call it, from Camille. Do you think that Cursor or WindSurf is a good choose for project that is already done? I mean, like maintenance stage, without using AI background. No docs, no agents on it. I mean, if it works well with the repositories, with code that already exists, what do you think?
I try to use Cursor for this for new website of our company, and it's Next.js based. It was working kinda, but I didn't really like. I personally a bit untrusty to the LLMs when I have the project written without LLMs. So we wrote the whole project with a couple of people. So we knew the architecture, the structure, the file structure, what styling we use, and of course, Cursor can follow all these guides. But then it's not enough just to open a project and say to Cursor, fix something in there. Then again, you need a lot of context. Or you need to ask it to go through the whole code base, check the styling, etc., and then just write something for you. It takes a while. Or you need to provide the whole information in a prompt, despite you already have a lot of code in this project. So I prefer to use WindSurf as a plugin for VS Code. I've been using it since it was Cadeum. And then I just open the file I need to fix, and I ask to do fixes exactly in this file. And probably in a WindSurf as a plugin for VS Code, you select part of the code, press Command I, and then you can do changes just for this part of the code, not for the whole file, etc. So that's how I do.
Right.
So I select the code I want to change and ask about the changes. But I don't trust to go through the whole my code base. Of course, it shows which files it changes, which lines were changed, etc. But it's still kind of a bit, how to say, unpredictable where it will go, which file it will open, where the changes will be done. So you need to expect that it will be correct, then you can roll back if something is wrong, etc. So I would like to control it a bit more nowadays, still.
Right, right. So, like, to reiterate, I guess you can recall several times when you had these unpredicted outputs in the YOLO mode when you asked to fix something, but instead it just literally smashed the half of the code base and says like, "Yay, well done, stuff like that." Yeah.
Yeah, that's again example of this, like where I need a timer for a poker player, just because it knows the code, but it kind of found the proper file. It kind of put it in the proper file, but in the wrong place. If I did it without Cursor or just with WindSurf, specifying the place, add this here, probably the result will be immediately correct.
Right, right. Another question from Magdalena. Any experience or comments on Firebase Studio you might provide?
Not yet, didn't touch it yet. Firebase is not my favorite thing overall. I know how it's used, and for startups and POCs, it's pretty great, but I'm not sure if you need to use Firebase for something beyond this type of projects. But Firebase Studio is probably pretty nice, because if you have not a tool, a service like Firebase, and you have I assume Firebase Studio like created to work with a Firebase like as a service, let's say in the backend or whatever you can call it, backend as a service, I would say, for simplicity here. Then, and if the studio uses LLM, which is really familiar with all your like tool, all the documentation, then it's super useful for Firebase related applications. If you need to build an interface which uses Firebase as a backend authorization storing or whatever, this studio probably will give you better code and better result than if you will do it with a Cursor or WindSurf, because they are general tools to generate any type of code for anything. And I assume in Firebase Studio, they had to put a lot of effort to make it work perfectly with the Firebase. Otherwise, it's stupid, I'd say.
Right. Okay, guys. Last call. Any other comments, concerns, questions before we wrap up? Because literally we had so many good questions, and of course we had so many good answers from you, Mikhail. Thank you very much. So I'm checking the comment section right now. Yeah, I guess like the last, not very like question, but still like statement rather than info gypsies on the run. Go, Misha, go. So I guess this like comment from
I
some of
have
your
this
friends.
nice video where another developer were reflecting, somebody called him info gypsy, and he said like, that's weird, I didn't sell you anything, I just want you to have some interest in, like something good. I want to create something good for you, I'm not selling anything, but if you want to call me info gypsy, okay, I don't really care. So same here.
Yeah, and actually, let me object a bit. I'm pretty much sure that this statement was done by some of your friends, let's say, like to motivate you a bit, to cheer you up, to troll
Yeah,
you
it was a
in a
joke. I
way.
understand.
Yeah, and most likely I know this person, but still. So what I do want to say is that, guys, just follow us on YouTube. I mean, like the Borderless JS AI conference or JavaScript Competency Center, like in general, but also follow Mikhail as well. He's not in for Gypsy at all, so he's not selling you anything or stuff like that. He just like post short videos about productivity, AI, front end, back end, whatever you want to call it, but still like good stuff without any like weird books like AI and I, something like that, for $100. So I guess it's time for us to conclude this session. So Michael, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me.
So guys, it's been quite fun, right? It was very busy week, so we had a number of talks, right? And I really enjoyed this week so far, right? So we had talk about Cursor, we had to talk about evolving AI, then we had another one about voice agents, then a bit about the vibe coding development, and we had panel discussions about who's going to be replaced with AI on the projects, right? And then the last but not least, is this one, right, about secret prompts of popular code editors. So if you've missed some of the talk, just rewatch the YouTube recording, press subscribe, like, you know what to do. Also, Mikhail here as well, just follow him at YouTube, like his comments and all other things. So that's it. So I guess we'll see each other in a couple of months with another conference. So I hope that we will be here as well with great talks, with great workshops, with great panel discussions, and have a great weekend ahead of you. And do not let AI fool you. So do not forget all the fundamentals. Do not forget how to code. And yeah, see you soon. And thank you very much, guys. Bye.
Bye.